This is Chapter 16, Part 2, lecture video, slide 15. Foster was accused of robbing a Western Union office. In the first lineup, Foster, who is 6 foot tall, was in a lineup with 2 smaller men. The witness was also shown Foster alone. Later in a second lineup, the witness was shown Foster and 4 different men. The Supreme Court held that the difference in possible suspects to show up and the repeating viewing was unnecessarily suggestive. Slide 16, recommended guidelines. Only one suspect should be included in each lineup. So if you have multiple suspects of a crime, only one should be in each lineup. All fillers, other people in the lineup, should be physically similar to the suspect. Rotate the location of the suspect each time, so don't have them in the same place each time if you have multiple suspects. Use a minimum of 4 fillers. New suspects require new fillers. You can't have the same people in the lineup. Fillers need not be uniformly similar to the suspect. Any unique characteristic should be copied. So if they had a scar across their face or something, you can actually have a makeup artist do that. Put a scar across everybody's face or whatnot. Slide 17, sequential lineups. There's an emerging trend in some states, and it seems to eliminate false identifications. First, a police officer unconnected with the case is given photographs, one of which is the suspect. The officer is not told who is the suspect. The photographs are shown in sequence to the witness. So there's no bias, in other words. There's no like winking or anything. There's no body language. Slide 18, preparing the witness. Problems exist if witnesses to see more than one lineup or photographic lineup. You should use a blank lineup, no suspects, to prevent misidentification. Keep the witness separate from one another. If you have more than one witness, keep them away from each other during the identification. There can be no coaching of witnesses. Make a detailed report on results of all lineups. I recommend you videotape it. If you become a detective, have a forensic technician, or you do it yourself. You're going to be too busy if you're the detective. Have someone videotape that lineup. That's a great idea. Modifications of photos to conform to suspect is permissible. So you can modify a photo, maybe crop it or give it the same background color if it doesn't. Something like that. Slide 19, due process at show-ups. Remember, again, that's the curbside. That's innately suggestive because you have one person there. But it still is allowed. You have one person, police just grabbed a guy that was running and had a purse. Great care must be taken to prevent misidentification. Traditionally, show-ups were limited to emergency situations if the witness was injured or dying. But it's permissible now if it meets the due process guidelines. Slide 20, Neal versus Biggers. Biggers was accused of rape. The victim was shown photographs but did not identify the defendant. After 7 months, she was invited to a show-up where the defendant was asked to say, "Shut up or I will kill you," and she identified him. Lower courts dismissed this identification as too suggestive. The Supreme Court upheld such identifications as not being too suggestive. That's interesting. So the Supreme Court upheld it, that it's not too suggestive. Slide 21, factors to consider for show-ups. The opportunity of the witness to view the crime, the degree of attention the witness was paying to events, all this is factors. The level of certainty expressed by the witness, how closely prior identifications conform to the current suspect. So the time frame. Slide 22 continued. The type and extent of prior inaccuracies in the witness identification. The length of time between the crime and the lineup. The court will review the totality of the circumstances to judge the due process. Something else that might be a factor is if the witness was intoxicated at the time or not, or under the influence of some kind of drug. Slide 23, identifications at trial. Witnesses frequently requested to make identifications at trial, like I said before. Can you point to the person who did this? Almost always the defendant looks different than they did during the crime, but they're still asked to do that. Prosecution often attempts to focus on the accuracy of its witnesses. The defense seeks to show misidentification, often focusing on problems like eyesight or poor memory. Experts can also occasionally be called. Slide 24, constitutional issues. If a constitutional issue is raised about identification, there must be a hearing about that. A hearing must be in camera or automatic reversal of the conviction. The fruit of the poisonous tree applies to in-court identifications as well. So, see the issue there where, you have some defendant that during the crime maybe had long hair or had a shaved head, and then in court could have gotten clean cut, shaved, grow the hair out, whatever it might be, and look totally different. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it's kind of jacked to ask a victim or a witness, and sometimes court proceedings don't happen until years later, and to say, can you please identify the defendant? And the witness or the victim may not know that that's just part of, they're just trying to show that you can identify them, but they look totally different. So I don't know. In my opinion, I don't know why there's so much weight placed on that. Slide 25, problems with witnesses. If there's no current memory, they may still testify that they identified the witness in a pre-trial photographic lineup. And obviously, the defense could attack the credibility of the witness at that point if they're not confident in their statement. Slide 26, John Foster was attacked and suffered severe injuries, including to his memory. Before trial, he identified Owens as his attacker, and at trial, he had no memory of Owens. The Supreme Court ruled the pre-trial identification could be admitted. Yay, it should be. All right, that is the end of Chapter 16.